Creating fills and patterns for design. Whoa. With Mr. G. Today we're just starting with a plain old piece of paper. This is cardstock I'm giving you today. If you're at home, you can kind of just grab your own. We're just going to start with a pencil. We're going to put our hand down. Mine's probably a little bit bigger than yours. And then very slowly, very carefully, I'm going to kind of press down. And we're going to trace our hand. Now don't do this fast. Take your time and it'll get all of the little nooks and crannies of the hand. And it'll turn out that much better. Now our trace, we're just going to grab oh, you can see my little ring outline right there. That's why it's nice to go slow. Now you can grab a Sharpie or a marker. You can do this with whatever color you want to. Black tends to be the best because it really stands out, and then you can use colors for everything else that you do after we do a little bit of dividing. So let's just trace this. Take your time doing this. Really go slow, and it'll turn out really nice. Now what we're going to do is we're going to divide the hand up, but not in any particular weight of division, so to speak. We're just going to go randomly. And so I just drew kind of a curvy line going across the hand. And you'll kind of see how this goes. I'm just going to do everything just random. So there's not going to be a rhyme or a reason to doing this. You can use straight lines. You can use curved lines. You can make a square. You can do a triangle in there. Just as long as we divide the hand up into different sections. And you'll see how many I get when I'm finished. So at this point, you'll see that I have a lot of different white space divided by a line and then have other little pieces of white space. So now I've got to figure out what I'm going to do to fill that space in with different patterns, different designs. So this one, I'm just going to do kind of maybe you would call this a ribbon design, or maybe it looks like a river. I'm going to just try all sorts of different things. And this is where your creativity will really play into how this turns out. And you can do whatever you want to. You can do stars, you can do pluses, triangles, squares, zigzaggy lines. It's really whatever you feel like you want to try to experiment. You can even do this off the side if you want to do it with another piece of paper, if you want to test out your pattern, maybe make even little swirlies. But the biggest part about this is really paying attention to those lines, taking your time doing it, and then just allow your hand to move. Just allow your brain to fill in these ideas that you might have, fill in with just something random. And that's what I'm doing here. I don't have a rhyme or reason to what I'm doing. It's just that I'm trying to follow a pattern of some kind. Now I'm going to just do some straight lines, just kind of to fill in this little area. And I think what I'll do is I'll also maybe make a checkerboard pattern with some squares. So this is just another idea. Kind of reminds me of a little bit of a Rubik's Cube. Maybe I'll fill those in with Rubik's Cube colors, you never know. And then I'm just going to continue to fill in the rest of these, and you'll see how that goes. So what we're doing here is we're creating abstract art. Some people would call this a Zentangle. Zentangles are squares that do the exact same thing. They might include only one pattern. They might include many different patterns. So what we're doing is a bunch of different patterns. And what's interesting about this is if you really zero in on what you're doing, pay attention to what your brain does. Like when you're creating these patterns, you're kind of thinking, but you're also, once you get going, you're not really thinking too much. And just pay attention to what maybe you kind of drift off while you're doing it. And that's also getting into your right brain, which is a really important part of learning how to draw, is just connecting with your right brain. So while I'm drawing all these little dots and these lines, sometimes it becomes easy and monotonous. And then your mind kind of really starts to click into your creative mode. Now that you've seen the difference in some of the designs that I've created, you'll notice that I'm always doing something a little bit different next to the one that I just did. So if I have a little triangle with dots, I'm going to do lines next to it, or kind of the opposite. In this case right here, I had kind of an arrow pattern going up and down, and then one on the side, and then I kind of brought them all together. Here I've got a little bit of squigglies going on next to some lines. So you want to think about that. Like, how can I make this just a little bit different? The next thing, the next little space, how can I make that difference and kind of stand out, make it look kind of cool? So I'm just doing something completely random. We have no idea what those are. Are those little holes? Are they bumps? But it's just a way of looking at line and what line can do and how powerful line can actually be. So I want you to think about those things when you're filling in your spaces. We got just a few more little spots to fill in here. And so it gets, when you get down to it, then it gets to be a little bit harder. But I'll give you some other ideas too in class maybe that'll help you out. And now at this point I could be finished after I fill in this little bit, but I think I want to make this design a little bit more interesting, not just with those lines by themselves, but maybe adding some contrast, a difference between light and dark, and fill in some of these lines. Some of these lines I'm going to fill in with my marker. And then the rest of these lines I'm probably going to fill in with some colored pencil. And that's your choice of how you would like to do that. And one final thing that I am choosing to do is to give this piece a little bit of dimension. I really love drop shadows and making things stand out like they're 3D. So one way to do that, one of the best ways to do that is really give shadow, just create shadows for everything. So I'm using a pencil and just using a Q-tip. You can use your finger or a paper towel, whichever works best for you. And then I'm using it on the actual design itself, just adding a little bit of pencil over that and creating some shadow just for some extra depth. And there is the final product. Good luck with yours. Hope you have fun. Thanks for watching.